Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Brave New Talent webcast, Engaging Talent with Learning Communities. I'm your host, Corinne Hutchinson, Director of Marketing, and we're having our presentation by Darren Medeiros, our Director of Sales. If you have any questions, please post them in the chat box. Thank you.
Thanks, Corinne. My name is Darren Medeiros. I run the sales team here at Brave New Talent. My background, I spent 3 years at LinkedIn, and previous to that, I was at Monster for 5 years. And I wanted to introduce you to Brave New Talent and the concept of talent communities for social learning and how that can be an attractive campaign for your future talent or your current talent or even your alumni. So a quick update as to what Brave New Talent is we're basically a platform for a platform and a place for where you can build talent communities. And basically what a talent community allows your organization to do is it allows people to interact with other people in areas that they're interested in a professional context. And so if I take a look at what that means is it's more of, as a professional, we thrive on becoming better at what we do every day. And there's certain topics that certain members of our professional livelihood engage around, and it makes us better professionals. And so the concept is giving the enterprise the opportunity to build these enterprise communities on a singular platform to where all this sharing of content can be done across the platform. And I'll show you how we do that. So basically, one of the use cases for talent communities is for future talent. And many organizations spend a ton of money on SEO, Craigslist, Monster, LinkedIn, and Google to try to drive talent back to their career site. And that's great, and it's a very effective way of getting the mind share of the passive and active job seekers in the marketplace. The primary problem with that is once they come to your career site, what options are they given? And one of the options is to become an applicant. And we all know from our backgrounds that many candidates that come to your career site will find out more information about you, but they're not necessarily ready to go through a 16-step process of actually creating a resume or putting all their contact information in your applicant tracking system. And so the idea is that we're going to move away from a very broadcast model where you're basically telling future talent or maybe your alumni about, hey, this is what's great about our organization, hey, this is what our leadership is saying, and hey, here's different job opportunities within the organization. And that's very much what we do with LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook, where we basically set up a page or set up a shop where we can attract talent to those pages, but once they get there, it becomes stale and it doesn't become personalized. So the idea is that we want to move away from broadcasting to these huge communities, huge diverse communities of people, and start talking to them in a very appropriate message. So if I'm a salesperson, I'm talking about sales content, or if I'm marketing or finance, I'm talking to them in their job family and in the context of which they are in their professional community. So I talk to interns very differently than I talk to people who've been in the workforce for 20+ years. So it's about moving away from broadcast and actually giving them the opportunity to engage with your organization. And so here in this example, I can see in the lower right-hand corner, join our talent community. So now you've invested all that money in LinkedIn, Facebook, Monster, Indeed, Simply Hired, and I've driven them to your career site. And now, rather than just giving them the option of becoming an applicant, I can now give them the option to join the talent community. And what this does is I'm capturing very basic information, maybe their first name, last name, email address, have them create a password, and once they do that, and maybe even what the job type is, where are you in your professional career? Are you experienced, and are you in sales? To give some sort of context as to what the relationship is, and this will now allow you, the organization, to engage with this future talent in a much more appropriate way. And when we talk about engagement, if I look at these different, the green bubble or the blue bubble, these are different topics. So you might have, this circle of people on the left-hand side might look like people that are coming to your career site. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't necessarily distinguish what their interest is. But what we find about talent communities is they naturally form around shared interest and purpose. So I can see, even though there's a lot of diversity on the left-hand side of topics or interest in topics on the left, when I bring them into a talent community, I can now unite them under a common interest, and that's usually a topic. So for instance, if I'm a Java engineer, that's Java. If I'm a salesperson, that might be about attainment and hitting quota. So the idea is take all these different players and segment them appropriately and have one-to-one relationships with them about your organization. The interesting part about communities, obviously, is they've been around for a long time, from campfires to town halls to online communities. And one of the biggest things that organizations are trying to tackle right now is, how do I build a talent community that I can actually drive engagement? And I can talk about some of the key indicators of how you do that a little bit later. So the first thing is, communities are really based on not engagement in a non-beneficial way. It's not about just talking to your friends. That's Facebook, and you can do that all day. It's really about becoming a better professional in what you do in your day-to-day livelihood. And so what the idea behind engagement is, throw out an idea or throw out a process and have people consume it and engage around whether this is the most effective way of approaching that particular topic or that particular issue. And so the idea is that you're building based on everyone's participation, and that's what engagement is. And engagement's very interactive, a very interactive conversation around all aspects of the topics. And topics can be anything from who's your company to what your leadership's doing to the topics that we deal with in our day-to-day lives in terms of how to be better professionals. And as you can see, as we go through these different conversation points, we come out with one great idea or several great ideas. One of the things that we hear from our customers often is there's a huge disconnect. My organization is great at these three things, and let's say those three things are design, mobile, and user interface, or UX design. And the possible talent that is looking for a company that are subject matter experts in this area, they don't necessarily know it's you. So the idea is that you start the conversation around what your future workforce is interested in talking about. For instance, experts can be college grads that specialize in a certain type of development. And in this case, you want to be able to marry your company's commitment to these three technology platforms, design, mobile, and user interface, to that future college grad. So when it comes to a recruiting perspective, you become the employer of choice. They've identified what's most important to them for their future livelihood, and they also see that your commitment aligns with what they're interested in. So it's a perfect match. So you can move away from this constant marketing your organization to this future talent, and they're automatically inclined to come to you for their next job because what you do is what interests them professionally. And so that's the first step. That's the basis of what a community is. It's the fundamental pairing of what people are interested in and what your organization is interested in as well. So the next step is, well, how do I build a community? And this is really the most complex of the two questions, because one way of building communities are identify everybody your company engages with, whether they're current employees, future employees, or past employees. But that's not the most effective way to go about this. The most effective way is for you to identify a certain population. And what we're seeing is there's different conversations. If I look at internships program is a great way for you to leave a lasting impression on a set of candidates that are interested in coming to your company. Alumni are also another great population because some companies love boomerang hires. They find them, they tend to be more satisfied at work, they learn faster, and they understand the culture ahead of time. You could also invite your current employee population. So there's a lot of different ways. So So the first step is identifying who is that singular population I want to start talking to, because as I add and I layer in additional populations, it only makes managing the community more complex. So the first step is identify that population, and let's say for this example, it'll be future talent. And so there's a number of different ways that you can invite them. But you invite them to the population, you invite them to your talent community, and the next step is to start using the assets you're already creating. Within your organization, you have leaders, you have mentors in different subject matter areas. You also have key contributors. Your recruiters do this every day already. What they do is they take, press releases from marketing communications, or they'll, if they're recruiting for a specific development job, they'll identify that, that manager that runs that business unit is the #1 in his field for the past 10, 20 years. So there's already tons of content about what you could share about your organization and topics that your organization cares about, and engage that community that you invited to the platform. Engagement can come in different ways. And this is the other big thing, is there's a lot of pushback from, oh, engagement's so hard, I don't have time to create the content. And that's a great point. And I think one of the fundamental aspects of where we are in terms of the digital age is, in addition to your organization creating content, your marketing people, your mentors, your leadership, there's also third-party aggregators out there that allow you to not force you to become the original content creator. And so engagement becomes much simpler. But again, this directly maps to the number of different communities you invite to the platform. And the third aspect of talent community is we can't ignore the other platforms. It's absolutely imperative that we continue to push the content that we push from inside your talent community to those final destinations like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn groups, maybe RSS feeds. And the benefit of that is, now that you've started to break your community into segments, sales, marketing, technical, I can now take those segments and I can create custom landing pages for LinkedIn groups or Twitter feeds or Facebook. So if I'm pushing out sales-related content, it goes to my Facebook page for salespeople, or my Twitter feed for salespeople. And it becomes a much more relevant and much more engaging experience. And so that's the 3 basic steps to how do I invite, how do I get them engaged, and how do I further extend the reach of that content to these popular platforms. The invitation process is really, really interesting in the sense that it can come in a number of different ways. From an applicant tracking system, we find we have a lot of interest in taking that body of people that are in the applicant tracking system and not being utilized at all. And so you could do an email campaign basically inviting all those in your applicant tracking system to join your talent community. One of the other ways that we've seen organizations use this is the joining online, which I'll show you an example of how we're doing that with Expedia. And the third part, you could be as creative as creating QR codes. So let's say you were doing a college event, or you're going on site for a college fair, and you wanted to hand this to everyone who was interested in your organization, because we all know when we do these fairs, you don't get enough time to spend with the right talent, and you find that if there was an easier way to drive them to a destination where they can learn more about your organization, that would be an effective use of your time. And so using QR codes on handouts would be an easy way to get them to join your talent community. Basically, anywhere you can share your URL. And I'm going to walk you through the platform, so I'm going to skip these 2 slides, or these slides about the actual experience, so you'll understand what that's like completely. We've been talking up to this point about the member experience. Like, why would people join the talent community? And people join talent communities because of their interest in you. And so the benefit that we give you on the back side, on the enterprise side, is the tools. And I'll walk through those tools a little bit more thoroughly when we're on the platform. But basically showing, how do I invite people? How easy is that? How do I allow them to engage on the platform? And then how do I measure it? Like, how do, what tools do I have to show that this content's being consumed? These are my top contributors. What's the activity in terms of when they join us, when they come back, what's the frequency? All that type of analytics need to be available so you can make a value statement in terms of, yes, this is an effective way for me to communicate with my target population. The other big thing that's very important for you as an enterprise is the ability to segment the community on the back end. So a member might be part of Brave New Talent's platform, or part of your talent community rather, but they don't know that in the back you may have segmented them and said, oh, you're my future talent, you're an applicant, or you're my alumni. And so when you message them, you'll be able to share content that's applicable to their job status or maybe their job type. So going back to the pushing sales content to salespeople, marketing content to marketing people, engineering content to engineer. And that's what you're able to do when you segment them on the back end. And this can be done in an automated way as well. So going back to the part about, how do I build a talent community, like who's the right population? And that's really somebody within your organization. You have pain points. One of your pain points could be you're spending a ton of money driving people to your career site, and they're just not becoming applicants for whatever reason. And this would be a way to reduce that overall loss. And then as you drive those future candidates, then you can add additional populations, so like maybe key mentors of current employees to keep that talent engaged. And then maybe in the future you want to add alumni. The goal is to identify one target population, and then as you learn how to optimize the talent community, start adding additional populations. So there also has been a lot of conversations with regard to what is a talent network versus a talent community. And when we think of talent networks, we're really thinking about, okay, I'm going to broadcast to them. A talent network can be something as simple as jobs to web, where when you come in, they capture the business card information, first name, last name, email address, password, but there's no engagement aspect to it. They're simply broadcasting to that list of names, hey, here's a new job opportunity, or hey, our company did this, but there's no engagement around it. And so if I look at how a community interacts and how our platform has been set up, it is people that are knowledgeable about certain topics, and they're passionate about that, and they want to continue to learn and innovate around that. And so basically I've gone from a single directional communication stream to now a very interactive, engaged platform where people can talk and grow from their discussions. So the fundamental difference of the Brave New Talent talent communities is, one, you can market yourself as an employer of choice. Take everything great about your organization and put it out there and let people start to consume it in a very interactive way. And then you'll become an employer of choice in their eyes. And by doing that, you're engaging the talent, and you're able to leverage not only the future talent, but present and the past talent. And you can communicate with them in a very segmented way. If you just want to talk to your alumni, you can message content to your alumni only, or if you want to talk to all three, you can do that at the same time without having to create three disparate systems. The other key thing is you're actually promoting your top mentors within your organization. So you're getting your mentors who they already exist. If you check anyone who does trade shows from your organization or contributes on a daily blog, those folks can now mentor your future talent or collaborate with them to be your future experts. The key thing is collaborating and innovating. Keep the talent community engaged so that they can interact over futures or other discussion points that are of interest to them. And as you do that more and more, you'll be able to identify the strong candidates because you'll see what their candidate scoring is like on the enterprise side. And I'll show you that as well. So it helps from a recruiting function as well. And lastly, the ability to push things to Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter from a single broadcast within Brave New Talent. So that's the overview from here's the talent community, here's how you invite people to the talent community, and here's what you want your talent community to do. So I'm going to show you how we've done that on Brave New Talent for one of our customers. Oops. Great. So imagine if you were a job seeker, and you saw, or not even a job seeker, but you saw and you did a search on Google, or you saw Indeed, or maybe you saw a job on LinkedIn, and it drove you back to the Expedia career site. Well, here's what they've done. They have two options. One, you could search for jobs, which is probably good for an active job seeker, or I can network with them and join their talent community. The key thing behind this is it gave me an option so that I'm not immediately turned off by the whole applicant experience. And now I can actually come in and just give them my business card information and join their talent community. And so, from an email perspective, password, first name, last name, very simple. And so once I've done this, I can be driven directly to the talent community that Expedia has built on Brave New Talent. And so here, as a member, I've been invited to join their talent community that's simply hosted by Brave New Talent. And what Expedia has done that's interesting is they've not only taken their talent community and created sub-communities by job families, but they've also identified key mentors in the different subject matter areas to make sure that the sub-communities stay relevant. And so the interesting aspect of this is here's a good example, is Expedia, when we think about them as a company, we think of them as a travel and leisure organization. But what you don't know is that they have the top mobile and UX UI designers in the world. And they actually create some of the most amazing handheld applications. And so what they've done to help promote this kind of global platform that they've created, they've taken Mark, a citizen of Expedia, and have him promote their lunch and learns. Maybe they'll have a hack day event around a certain issue that they're trying to overcome. And they're able to do that in this platform. And from their invitation to this sub-community. And so that gives them one way to engage their future talent around their current mentors to get a sense of who's capable of joining our team since the bar is so high. So that's one use case for Expedia. And when I look at the next thing that comes up when people talk about the community is, great, now I have a talent community, but how do I keep members engaged? And as I mentioned before, Brave New Talent is an open community. And what that means is if Expedia creates a talent community on it, and eBay creates a talent community and Applied Materials, members can actually see top content that's been contributed by other topics. And I'll show you what that looks like. So again, this is Expedia's landing page. The one thing I forgot to mention is when you're a member of Brave New Talent, you follow topics, you'll follow companies. By default, you'll follow the company that invited you to the platform. And the third thing, you follow people. And that's important from a professional context because that's how we learn to be better at what we do on a day-to-day basis. So I just pulled up my platform. What we have here on the left, my platform, my profile. What we have on the left here is my learning stream. And my learning stream is all the topics and people and companies that I'm following. I can see on the right-hand side the topics I'm following are business, marketing, social media, creativity, technology. And so everything in my learning stream is made up of those different items I'm following. I can see I have 26 followers, I'm following 17 people, and I'm following 12 organizations. And the interesting part about that is I can pick what information I want to follow. So if I click on my 12 topics, if I'm no longer interested in, say, technology, I simply stop following it, and that topic no longer arrives in my content stream. So from a member experience, it's 100% relevant every time. So let's look up here. Let's look up one of the topics, leadership, because I know I'm not following it currently. So if I click on leadership, I can get a stream of content on that topic. So if I wanted to know more about that, this should be a good place to come. I can also see in this particular topic, on the right-hand side, I can see the top contributors of content for this topic. And so that would influence whether I want to follow them or not. The other thing I can see is I can see, obviously, who's following this particular topic, and I can see companies that are top contributors in this area. And what this does, and in many cases, some organizations are a little sensitive about doing this because it's putting their members in a shared platform. But what this allows you to do is it allows you to put content out there that others can consume, and you're not kind of handcuffed by having a private community, which is a very difficult platform to support on your own, because then you are the primary and exclusive content creator for that community to keep them engaged. And you should talk to organizations who've tried that and failed miserably. So again, this is a topic I'm following. It can influence whether I want to follow these key people or follow these different companies that are top contributors under the leadership topic. So that's, from an engagement perspective, that's the #1 reason that somebody would stay on Brave New Talent, because they would find the content to be professionally relevant for them at their current state, and it can continue to grow. So I've talked a lot about the member experience. Here there was an invitation. It got me to Brave New Talent. I've started following topics and Expedia. So now I'm on the platform. The content is relevant because I can start following other topics that I'm interested in. But the third aspect is really, what's the benefit to the organization? And so I'm going to simply click over to Brave New Talent. And this is the Brave New Talent community. So I could also click onto Expedia to see what they're doing, but they probably wouldn't appreciate that. So on the enterprise side, there's a bunch of different features. The first one is community management. And this is when I talked about segmenting, identifying which people are alumni and which are future talent and which are current employees, or maybe who's in sales and who's in marketing and finance. So there's the ability to segment those different community members, and then at the same time be able to direct message them. So let's say I wanted to promote an opportunity that was in, Austin, Texas for customer service. I could do that through our community management tools. The user management really is much more tied to how is the community being managed. So here you have the concept of, you have a community manager who's in charge of the platform for your organization. You have mentors, which tend to be key contributors for different topic areas. And then you have recruiters who want to look at profiles and get a sense of who are the top consumers for different areas of content. And so that's on the user management side. The other option is, in the subcommunities, you can actually have jobs that are relevant to the different groups. So as I mentioned, you want to, if you're providing sales content to salespeople, you want sales jobs to also show up in those subcommunities, and that can be managed as well, and that can be automated. In many ways, we can take basically your feed from your applicant tracking system, or if you're using a CRM, take the feed from them and promote it to the right community, so the right people see the right jobs. The growing your community, we talked about in the PowerPoint, where I can send an invitation, I can have a custom URL sent out to by email. They can log in through your career site through a very simple HTML page. So growing your community can be done in a number of different automated ways. And then sub-community management is the ability to extend your community. So let's say you start with interns first, and then you want to add alumni, and you wanted to segment based on salespeople. There's a number of different ways that we can do that, and sub-community management allows you to continually add additional sub-communities to your talent community as your talent community grows. And the biggest piece is the analytics. Analytics allow you to know how your community is progressing. What's the activity like? What content do they like? Who's the top contributor? How long does it take for them to join the platform? One of the interesting things that we discovered with one of our customers is if you have an applicant tracking system database and you invite people who applied or were interested in the last 6 months, they'll join your community more readily than those that have done it past the last 6 months. What's interesting, though, is we found that if we sent out a reminder invitation, maybe 2 or 3 of them, that we get much higher participation from those folks that have been in your applicant tracking system for 6+ months. And so what we're finding using the analytics is what's the behavior or the interest level? How do I entice someone to come back to your organization after they've been stale in your applicant tracking system? And so in your applicant tracking system. So analytics are absolutely critical. One of the other aspects of analytics really has to do with, sorry about that. One of the other aspects of analytics has to do with what happens after 3 months? How do we keep them engaged? And there's whole aspects behind that community management that we track for you, so you know at what point do you need to get more involved or less involved based on the activity on your community platform. So that's basically the overview. I think if there's more questions or if you have more questions and you want to get more information from us, feel free to reach out to us at the email address there, sales@bravenewtalent.com, or you can actually find more information on our website by going to www.bravenewtalent.com/social-learning-community, and you'll find more information. Again, thank you for your time today, and I look forward to hearing from you in the near future.
Thanks so much, Darren. That concludes our webcast for today. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact sales@bravenewtalent.com. Thank you.